People like you shouldn't be having children." The words strike Rebecca Torres like a punch to the gut. Nurse Linda Morrison doesn't even lift her eyes from her phone, her thin lips twisted in contempt. Rebecca stands before the intake counter at City General Hospital's emergency room, 7.5 months pregnant, bent double with pain. Her brown skin glistens with perspiration under the harsh overhead lighting. "Please, I have coverage." Rebecca's voice trembles. "Sure you do." Linda finally glances up, her gray eyes scanning Rebecca from head to toe with undisguised disdain. Rebecca attempts to move closer, one hand protectively cradling her swollen belly. "My baby." "Step back." Linda springs from her seat. "Don't you dare cause a scene in my emergency room." Linda's hand strikes Rebecca's face with brutal force. Rebecca's head jerks to the side, her body stumbling backward. She grabs the counter's edge to prevent herself from falling, her free hand shielding her unborn child. The waiting area goes deathly quiet. Security cameras record everything. What Linda doesn't realize yet is that she just committed the gravest error of her career. The sterile scent of City General Hospital mixes with the subtle odor of anxiety and hopelessness that permeates every emergency department at 3 in the morning. Overhead lights buzz, creating stark shadows on worn tile floors that have witnessed countless tragedies. Rebecca Torres hunches in a molded plastic seat, her palm still pressed against her burning cheek. The crimson mark from Linda's strike feels like a badge of humiliation. Surrounding her, the waiting area contains 1,000 tales of human misery. An aged man hacks into a blood-spotted cloth. A young woman cradles a feverish infant. A laborer nurses his damaged arm. Yet Rebecca feels completely isolated. She draws her threadbare sweater tighter across her shoulders, attempting to disappear. Her wedding band glints in the light, a modest gold circle representing 4 years of joy with Marcus. They'd scrimped and saved to purchase their small house in Oakwood Terrace, a peaceful community where kids cycle along tree-shaded avenues and people still greet each other. Rebecca instructs 3rd grade at Washington Elementary, where her pupils address her as Miss T and present her with colored sketches of families holding hands. She donates time at the community pantry on Saturdays and performs in the church ensemble every Sunday. Her existence is uncomplicated, meaningful, unremarkable. Nothing about Rebecca Torres indicates she's connected to anyone of significance. Behind the intake counter, Linda Morrison rules like a monarch over her clinical domain. At 47, she's been employed at City General for 18 years, advancing from staff nurse to emergency services supervisor through pure determination and strategic networking. Her auburn hair never displays a single strand astray. Her scrubs are perpetually pressed, her footwear perpetually buffed. Linda resides in a cramped flat in Westbrook, 40 minutes from the medical center. She operates a 12-year-old Toyota with oxidation marks and faulty climate control. Her refrigerator displays stacks of invoices, utilities, lease, vehicle financing, each one a testament to how inadequately her nursing income extends. She observes physicians half her years operate premium vehicles to their gated communities while she rides public transit when her Toyota malfunctions. She witnesses executives with corporate credentials making healthcare decisions from their executive suites while she manages the carnage and pandemonium on the ground level. Linda has mastered finding her authority in minor ways. A cutting remark here, an intentional postponement there. The capacity to make someone wait simply because she possesses that power. Tonight, as always, she's the barrier between suffering and comfort, and she determines who merits which. The medical facility itself mirrors the metropolitan area's profound inequalities. City General accommodates everyone from corporate leaders with premium coverage to destitute individuals paying with wrinkled government cards. The affluent receive individual accommodations and considerate attention. The impoverished receive folding seats and mistrustful stares. Dr. Amanda Sullivan navigates the turmoil with understated competence. At 34, she's finishing her emergency medicine training, laboring 20-hour rotations for scarcely sufficient compensation to service her educational debt. She observes everything. The manner Linda's tone shifts based on a patient's presentation, the extended waiting periods for particular populations, the organizational apathy that permits bias to thrive. However, trainees don't confront head nurses, not if they desire favorable assessments and career endorsements. Miguel Santos propels his cleaning equipment across the surface with rehearsed actions, unnoticed by most personnel and visitors. He's labored the overnight rotation for 9 years, maintaining a household of 5 on compensation that scarcely addresses housing costs. Miguel witnesses everything transpiring in these corridors. He recognizes which nurses demonstrate empathy and which ones display scorn. His spouse, Rosa, is employed in the municipal administration building across town. Occasionally, she returns with accounts about the reform-minded city council member who's been challenging the established power structure, advocating for working-class neighborhoods and accountability measures. Miguel has never encountered this official, but he admires someone who defends ordinary families. Protection Officer Frank Peterson walks the hallways with exhausted vision. 25 years in law enforcement before transitioning to this less demanding position. He's witnessed sufficient brutality to identify the warning indicators when conflict begins escalating. Tonight, he continuously glances toward the intake station where that expectant woman remains isolated and toward Linda, who's grown increasingly confrontational with each passing moment. The overnight rotation functions under alternative regulations. Reduced management, diminished monitoring, increased possibilities for those wielding influence to misuse it. And tonight, all these existences are about to intersect in manners none of them could anticipate. Rebecca examines her device. 3:49 in the morning. Marcus is likely still at the municipal complex grappling with financial documents and political matters. She'd prefer not to concern him unless utterly essential. He shoulders sufficient pressure already. She simply requires someone to assess her infant. Someone to assure her everything will be acceptable. What she doesn't comprehend is that everything is about to transform permanently. Rebecca's abdominal spasms worsen at 4:22. Acute discomfort shoots through her lower spine like electrical charges, and she detects moisture between her thighs that causes her pulse to accelerate with dread. She's experienced 2 previous losses. She understands the cautionary indicators. Rising gradually from her plastic seat, Rebecca approaches Linda's station for what seems the dozenth occasion this evening. Her limbs quiver with each stride. The fluorescent illumination appears more intense now, more accusatory. "Pardon me." Rebecca's voice is scarcely audible. "I believe I might be experiencing bleeding. Could someone please?" Linda doesn't glance up from her monitor. Her digits strike the keys with calculated sluggishness. Each keystroke a minor demonstration of cruelty. "I instructed you to await your turn. But it's been exceeding 3 hours, and I'm genuinely frightened that." 3 hours? Linda's chuckle is razor-sharp. "Dear, certain individuals wait the entire evening. Perhaps if you possessed superior coverage, you'd receive expedited attention." Rebecca extracts her insurance documentation with quivering fingers. "I possess Blue Care. It's quality coverage. My husband's employment." Spare the narratives. Linda finally looks upward, her gray eyes frigid as polar ice. Every charity case in here possesses some tearful account about their husband's quality employment. Let me speculate. He's a supervisor somewhere, correct? Or perhaps a foreman. Warmth floods Rebecca's features. He's employed by the municipality. We're not receiving assistance. We contribute our taxes, and municipal employee. Linda's voice saturates with derision. Let me speculate. Sanitation, infrastructure crew, one of those protected union positions where termination is virtually impossible regardless of incompetence. Rebecca's hands reflexively shield her abdomen as another surge of discomfort crashes over her. "Please, I simply require someone to verify my baby is acceptable. The bleeding is intensifying." Linda rises deliberately, utilizing her stature to dominate over Rebecca. "You comprehend what your difficulty is? You individuals believe pregnancy renders you exceptional. Believe it entitles you to bypass everyone else. The phrase, 'you individuals,' suspends in the atmosphere like toxic vapor. Other visitors shift awkwardly in their positions. Several extract their devices, detecting confrontation developing. "I'm not attempting to bypass anyone," Rebecca states, her voice fracturing. "I'm simply concerned for my infant." "Concerned?" Linda circles around the counter like a hunter stalking quarry. "You desire to comprehend what's concerning?" Managing entitled individuals who believe the world is indebted to them simply because they managed to conceive. Dr. Amanda Sullivan materializes at the waiting area's periphery, having detected the elevated voices. She absorbs the scenario, the expectant woman grasping her abdomen, the head nurse towering over her like an avenging entity, the pressure crackling through the atmosphere like static before a tempest. Is everything satisfactory here? Dr. Sullivan inquires, her tone deliberately impartial. Linda rotates around, her authority tested. Everything is acceptable, doctor. This visitor is simply experiencing difficulty comprehending the principle of awaiting her sequence. I've been waiting 3 hours, Rebecca appeals to Dr. Sullivan. I'm 7.5 months expectant, and I believe something might be incorrect. Dr. Sullivan's medical reflexes activate. What category of manifestations are you encountering? Abdominal spasms, spinal discomfort, and some hemorrhaging. She's being theatrical, Linda interrupts. Believe me, I've witnessed genuine emergencies. This isn't one. Dr. Sullivan grimaces. Hemorrhaging at 34 weeks is potentially critical. We should minimally conduct a rapid evaluation. Dr. Sullivan, Linda's voice becomes arctic. I determine priority classifications in this emergency department. You're here to address visitors I allocate to you, not to challenge my professional assessment. The warning is explicit. Dr. Sullivan's jaw contracts, but she's a trainee. Linda controls her assessments, her rotation, her career prospects. She retreats with observable hesitance. Naturally, Linda. However, if the manifestations deteriorate, they won't. Patricia dismisses her with a gesture. Proceed. I'm confident you possess actual emergencies to manage. Dr. Sullivan directs Rebecca an apologetic expression before vanishing back into the treatment section. Rebecca feels optimism drain from her body like fluid from a fractured container. Miguel Santos feigns to clean near the intake station, his calloused hands gripping the handle more firmly as he observes the confrontation develop. He's witnessed Linda intimidate visitors previously, but never this viciously. His device weighs substantial in his pocket. He comprehends he should document this, but medical center regulations strictly prohibit employee recordings. Linda returns to Rebecca with renewed hostility. Now that you've squandered the physician's duration with your histrionics, permit me to clarify how operations function here. You remain seated. You wait silently. You don't disturb the medical personnel with your paranoid delusions about hemorrhaging. But I am hemorrhaging, Rebecca maintains, her voice rising slightly. I can detect it. Something is incorrect. Reduce your volume, Linda hisses. This is a medical facility, not a public thoroughfare. Rebecca attempts to comply, but desperation renders her courageous. Please, I'm imploring you. Simply permit someone to examine me. 5 minutes. That's all I require. Linda's features contort with fury. Imploring? Now we're approaching the reality. You believe if you grovel sufficiently, I'll demonstrate compassion. You believe tears and pleading will secure you preferential treatment. I believe fundamental human consideration should secure me medical attention when I require it, Rebecca responds, her educator's reflexes finally superseding her apprehension. The words strike Linda like a blow. Her features flush crimson and her hands compress into fists at her flanks. Human consideration? You desire to instruct me about consideration. I desire someone to assist me preserve my infant. Your infant? Linda advances closer, violating Rebecca's personal space. Permit me to inform you something about your infant. Perhaps if individuals like you contemplated before you commenced reproducing, we wouldn't possess overcrowded educational facilities, overburdened assistance systems, and emergency departments filled with individuals who cannot afford the ramifications of their decisions. Gasps resonate through the waiting area. Multiple visitors extract their devices openly now, documenting Linda's verbal assault. Miguel ceases feigning to clean and positions himself where he can observe everything distinctly. Rebecca's eyes fill with moisture, but her voice intensifies. You don't comprehend anything about me or my household. You don't comprehend what we've experienced or what we've lost. I comprehend sufficiently, Linda snarls. I comprehend your category. Arrive here performing helpless, anticipating everyone else to resolve your difficulties. Well, speculate what? Your difficulties aren't my precedents. My infant's existence should be everyone's precedents. The words suspend between them like a gauntlet thrown down. Linda's features become purple with rage. She's forfeited control of the circumstance, forfeited control of her authority, and she comprehends it. But instead of retreating, she intensifies. Stand up, Linda commands. What? I stated stand up. I desire everyone in this waiting area to observe exactly what entitlement resembles. Rebecca remains positioned, confusion and fear competing on her features. I don't comprehend. You will. Linda seizes Rebecca's arm and jerks her to her feet with brutal force. Rebecca cries out as discomfort shoots through her spine and abdomen. This, Linda announces to the chamber, her voice projecting across the stunned silence, is what transpires when individuals believe pregnancy entitles them to make demands. Her hand draws back, and for a moment, time appears suspended. Miguel reaches for his device. Dr. Sullivan reappears at the treatment section entrance. Protection Officer Frank Peterson advances forward, and Rebecca Torres, elementary educator and spouse of a man whose genuine identity none of them comprehend, stands completely defenseless against the tempest about to descend over her head. Linda's palm connects with Rebecca's cheek with vicious force. The impact sends Rebecca stumbling backward, her hand flying to her face as tears spring to her eyes. The sharp sting radiates through her jaw, but worse is the humiliation burning in her chest. The waiting room erupts in shocked murmurs. Did she just hit a pregnant woman? Someone whispers. Oh my God, someone call security. But security guard Frank Peterson stands frozen, his hand hovering over his radio. Linda is his supervisor's friend, part of the hospital's power structure. He's seen her complaints destroy careers before. Rebecca staggers against a chair, her other hand instinctively protecting her unborn child. Blood rushes to her face where Linda's handprint blooms like a crimson flower. You hit me, she gasps, disbelief making her voice small. Damn right I did. Linda towers over her, chest heaving with righteous fury. And I'll do it again if you keep pushing me. This is my ER, and you'll show respect or get out. Dr. Amanda Sullivan rushes forward, her medical training overriding hospital politics. Linda, what are you doing? You can't assault a patient. Assault. Linda whirls on the young doctor. She was being aggressive and threatening. I was defending myself. She's 7.5 months pregnant and bleeding. Dr. Sullivan kneels beside Rebecca, checking her pulse. This is completely inappropriate. Dr. Sullivan, you're out of line. Linda's voice turns deadly quiet. I suggest you return to your duties before I call your attending physician about your insubordination. The threat hangs heavy in the air. Dr. Sullivan's face flushes, but she helps Rebecca back into her chair. I'm noting this incident in my report, she says quietly. You do that? Linda's smile is as cold as winter. I'm sure the administration will be very interested in your version of events. Miguel Santos can't stay silent anymore. He drops his mop with a clatter that echoes through the waiting room. I saw what happened. That lady didn't threaten anybody. Linda's head snaps toward him like a cobra striking. Excuse me? Did I ask for your opinion, janitor? No, ma'am. Then keep your mouth shut and do your job, unless you'd prefer to find a new one. Miguel's weathered hands clench into fists, but he has 5 children and a mortgage. He picks up his mop with trembling fingers, his eyes burning with impotent rage. Rebecca tries to stand again, desperate to escape this nightmare. I'll go to another hospital. I just want to leave. Sit down. Linda blocks her path like a prison guard. You're not going anywhere until I decide you can go. You can't keep me here against my will. Watch me. Linda pulls out her phone. Frank, get over here. We have a disruptive patient who needs to be restrained. Security guard Peterson approaches reluctantly, his face ashen. Linda, maybe we should just let her go too. Are you questioning my authority too? Linda's voice rises to a shriek. Does anyone in this hospital remember who's in charge here? Rebecca feels wetness spreading between her legs. The stress and trauma are triggering premature labor. Something's really wrong, she whispers. I think my water just broke. More dramatics. Linda doesn't even look. You people will say anything to get attention. But Dr. Sullivan sees the growing stain on Rebecca's dress and her face goes white. Linda, she needs immediate medical attention. This could be a life-threatening emergency. The only emergency here is this woman's attitude problem. Rebecca doubles over as a contraction rips through her abdomen. She's only 34 weeks pregnant. This baby is coming too early. Please, she gasps. Something's happening to my baby. Your baby will be fine when you learn to behave like a civilized human being. The cruelty of the words hits Rebecca like a physical blow. She's been polite, patient, and desperate. She's done everything right, and still this woman treats her like garbage. A young mother across the room starts recording with her phone. "This is insane," she mutters. "Someone needs to stop this." Linda notices the phone and storms over. "Delete that right now." "No way. This is assault, and I'm documenting it. Hospital policy prohibits recording. Security. But Frank Peterson has had enough." "Linda, I think you need to calm down. This situation is getting out of hand." "Out of hand?" Linda's voice cracks with hysteria. "I'm trying to maintain order in this zoo, and everyone's turning against me." She spins back towards Rebecca, who's now hunched over in obvious labor. "This is all your fault. You came in here acting entitled, disrupting my ER, turning my staff against me." Rebecca looks up through tears of pain and humiliation. "I just wanted help for my baby." "Your baby?" Linda's laugh is harsh and bitter. "Let me tell you something about your baby. Maybe this is nature's way of telling you that some people shouldn't reproduce." The words hit the waiting room like a bomb. Even Linda's supporters look horrified. Someone gasps, "Oh my God." Another person whispers, "She didn't just say that." Dr. Sullivan steps between them. "That's enough, Linda. I'm taking this patient to Trauma Bay 3 right now." "You'll do no such thing. I'm the charge nurse and I'm a doctor with a patient in active labor." Dr. Sullivan's voice cuts through Linda's protests. "Get out of my way, or I'll have you removed." Linda's face contorts with pure malice. "You know what, doctor? Maybe you need a lesson in authority, too." She grabs the nearest phone and dials hospital administration. "This is Linda Morrison in emergency. I need security to remove 2 disruptive individuals, a patient who's been threatening staff and a resident who's being insubordinate." Miguel can't take any more. He pulls out his cell phone and starts recording. "Hospital policy be damned. Lady, you're crazy. This woman needs help. Put that phone away right now, or I'll have you arrested." "For what?" "Doing what's right." Miguel keeps filming as Linda's composure completely crumbles. More patients join in the recording. The waiting room becomes a chorus of dissent against Linda's tyranny. "This is disgusting," someone calls out. "She hit a pregnant woman," another voice adds. Linda realizes she's lost complete control. Her face turns purple with rage as she screams at the room. "All of you shut up. I have 18 years of experience. I know what's best for patients. You don't know anything." Rebecca cries out as another contraction hits, more violent than before. Dr. Sullivan checks her watch. "The contractions are coming every 3 minutes now. Linda, I'm taking her to delivery whether you approve or not." "Over my dead body." For a moment, the 2 women face off like gunfighters at high noon. Then Linda's phone buzzes with a text message. She glances at it, and her face transforms from rage to confusion to growing horror. The message is from the hospital administrator. "Emergency situation developing in ER. Councilmember Torres en route with security detail. Prepare for immediate review of all protocols." Linda's blood turns to ice. Councilmember Torres. But that would mean. She looks at Rebecca with new eyes, seeing past her simple clothes and exhausted appearance. The quiet dignity, the expensive wedding ring, the way she speaks, educated, articulate despite her fear. "What did you say your last name was?" Linda asks, her voice suddenly small. Rebecca looks up through her pain. "Torres. Rebecca Torres." The phone slips from Linda's numb fingers and shatters on the floor. Marcus Torres has been all over the news lately. The young reformer fighting corruption. The man who's been investigating discrimination in city services. The man who's married to an elementary school teacher. Through the hospital's glass doors, Linda sees a convoy of dark vehicles pulling into the parking lot. Red and blue lights flash in the pre-dawn darkness. Linda realizes she's been recorded assaulting and denying medical care to the wife of one of the city's most powerful elected officials. Her world is about to end. Rebecca fumbles for her phone with shaking hands, each movement sending fresh waves of pain through her body. She avoided making this call all night, hoping she could handle the situation alone. But as another contraction grips her like a vice, she realizes she has no choice. The phone rings twice before a familiar voice answers. "Rebecca, what's wrong?" "Marcus," her voice breaks. "I'm at City General. Something's wrong with the baby, and they won't help me." The line goes silent for a heartbeat. When Marcus speaks again, his voice carries a weight Rebecca has rarely heard. The voice of a man accustomed to being obeyed. "Stay exactly where you are. Don't move. Don't sign anything. Don't let anyone touch you until I get there. I'm bringing help. Linda watches Rebecca make the call with growing unease. Something about the pregnant woman's tone has shifted. The desperation is still there, but underneath it runs a current of quiet confidence, as if salvation is finally coming. 20 minutes later, the automatic doors burst open with a whoosh of cold morning air. But what enters isn't a worried husband and maybe a few family members. Marcus Torres strides through the entrance like a force of nature, his presence commanding immediate attention. Behind him follows an entourage that makes the late-night ER staff freeze in place. Police Chief David Chun in full uniform, Hospital Board Chairman Gerald Morrison in an expensive suit despite the early hour, City Attorney Patricia Valdez carrying a briefcase, and 2 news crews with cameras already rolling. Linda stands behind her desk, watching this parade of power approach her domain. Her nursing instincts tell her to be deferential. These are obviously important people. But her pride refuses to bow down. Visiting hours are over, she announces, stepping into their path with false authority. You can't just storm in here because someone called you. This is a medical facility with rules. Chief Chun holds up his badge, the gold shield gleaming under fluorescent lights. Ma'am, we're here on official business. Linda's confidence wavers slightly, but she doubles down. I don't care what kind of business you think you have. I'm the charge nurse of this emergency room, and I have final authority over who enters this treatment area. Board Chairman Morrison steps forward, his silver hair, an expensive suit radiating the kind of power that comes from old money and older connections. Miss Morrison, I'm Gerald Morrison, chairman of this hospital's board of directors. A flicker of recognition crosses Linda's face, but she's too far down this road to turn back now. Mr. Morrison, I'm glad you're here. We've had a very disruptive patient tonight who's been threatening staff. And where is my wife? The voice cuts through Linda's explanation like a sword through silk. Marcus Torres steps past the others, his eyes scanning the waiting room until they lock onto Rebecca, still hunched in her plastic chair, tears streaming down her face. Linda scoffs, her sense of superiority intact. Your wife? So what if you brought some big shots to intimidate me? Having important friends doesn't change the fact that she was being difficult. Miss Morrison, Marcus says quietly, his voice carrying the kind of authority that doesn't need to be loud. I'm Marcus Torres. Good for you, Mr. Torres. That doesn't change anything. Your wife still needs to follow hospital protocol. I'm a city council member, and I chair the healthcare oversight committee. The words drop into the chaos of the ER like stones into still water, creating ripples of silence that spread outward until the entire waiting room falls quiet. Even the fluorescent lights seem to hum more softly. Linda's face goes through a series of expressions, confusion, disbelief, then slowly dawning horror as the implications sink in. The pregnant woman she's been tormenting, humiliating, and denying care isn't just another charity case. She's the wife of the man who controls the committee that oversees hospital funding and investigates healthcare discrimination. That's impossible, Linda whispers. She doesn't look like. Like what? Marcus's voice is deadly quiet. Like someone who deserves basic human dignity? Like someone whose life matters. Chief Chin steps forward, his hand resting casually on his radio. We've received multiple reports of assault and medical negligence. I'm going to need to review the security footage from tonight. There's been a misunderstanding. Linda stammers, all her earlier bravado evaporating like morning mist. Mrs. Torres was. The situation was. I didn't know who she was. City Attorney Valdez opens her briefcase and pulls out a legal pad. And that matters how exactly? Are you saying patient care at this hospital depends on who someone is married to? Linda realizes she stepped into quicksand with every word. No, that's not what I meant. I treat everyone equally. Really? Dr. Sullivan appears from the treatment area, her face flushed with righteous anger. Because I witnessed you physically assault this woman and deny her emergency medical care for hours. Miguel Santos steps forward, still gripping his mop handle like a weapon. I got it all on my phone. Everything she did, everything she said. The young mother with the recording holds up her device. Me too. The whole thing's already uploaded to social media. Linda watches her 18-year career crumble in real time. The security cameras have recorded everything. Multiple witnesses have video evidence. The media is already here. There's no covering this up, no explaining it away, no making it disappear. Marcus kneels beside Rebecca's chair, his public persona melting away to reveal a terrified husband. I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner, sweetheart. Let's get you and our baby the care you need. Linda tries one last desperate gambit. Councilmember Torres, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. If you could just give me a chance to explain. Marcus stands slowly, and when he looks at Linda, she sees something that chills her to the bone. Not anger. Anger would be better. What she sees is the cold, implacable gaze of justice itself. Miss Morrison, he says quietly, the only misunderstanding here is yours. You thought power meant the right to abuse people. You're about to learn what real accountability looks like. The transformation happens instantly. Linda Morrison, who moments ago ruled this emergency room like a tyrant, now stands before the council member with her hands trembling like autumn leaves. Council member, please, she begins, her voice cracking. I had no idea who your wife was. If I had known. Stop. Marcus's voice cuts through her desperate plea. That's exactly the problem, Miss Morrison. You didn't think it mattered who she was. Hospital Administrator Dr. Helen Chong bursts through the ER doors, still adjusting her hastily thrown-on jacket. Her face is pale with the kind of panic that comes from knowing your career is about to implode. She takes one look at the scene. The council member, the police chief, the news cameras, and Linda standing in the center like a deer in headlights. Councilmember Torres, I came as soon as I heard. This is completely unacceptable. Linda Morrison is suspended immediately, Board Chairman Morrison announces, his voice echoing through the waiting room. Security will escort her from the premises. Her access to all hospital systems is terminated effective now. Linda's face goes white as paper. You can't do this. I have union protection. I have seniority. You need proper documentation. City Attorney Valdez looks up from her legal pad. Actually, we have documentation. Hours of security footage, multiple witness testimonies, and video evidence of you assaulting a patient. The union won't protect you from criminal charges. Dr. Sullivan steps forward, her medical bag already in hand. Mrs. Torres, we need to get you to delivery immediately. Your contractions are coming every 2 minutes now. As Marcus helps Rebecca to her feet, Linda makes one final desperate attempt to salvage something from the wreckage. Mrs. Torres, I sincerely apologize for any misunderstanding tonight. I was having a difficult shift, and I made some poor choices. If you could find it in your heart, too. Rebecca looks back at her, exhaustion and pain etched in every line of her face. You didn't apologize when you thought I was powerless, Miss Morrison. You apologized when you found out who I was married to. The words hit Linda like a physical blow. Around the waiting room, patients nod in agreement. Miguel Santos puts away his mop and pulls out his phone again, making sure he captures Linda's final moments of authority. I want her removed from this hospital immediately, Dr. Chong tells security. Clear out her locker, collect her badge and keys. She's banned from all hospital property pending the investigation. 2 security guards approach Linda, their faces grim but professional. Ma'am, we need you to come with us. This isn't fair, Linda protests as they take her arms. I've worked here for 18 years. I know this hospital better than anyone. One mistake shouldn't. One mistake. Chief Chen steps into her path. Ma'am, preliminary investigation suggests this isn't your first incident of discriminatory behavior. We'll be reviewing your entire employment record. As the security guards escort Linda toward the exit, she passes Miguel Santos. The janitor looks her straight in the eye, his weathered face showing no sympathy. 18 years, he says quietly. 18 years you've been treating people like dirt, thinking nobody important was watching. Guess you were wrong. Linda's legs nearly give out as the full weight of her situation crashes down on her. Not only is she losing her job, she's facing criminal charges, assault on a pregnant woman, civil rights violations. The videos are already going viral on social media. Her name will be synonymous with healthcare discrimination. Dr. Sullivan wheels a gurney into the waiting room as Rebecca's condition deteriorates. We need to move now. This baby is coming whether we're ready or not. As Marcus helps his wife onto the gurney, Chief Chen signals to his officers. I want this entire incident documented, every witness statement, every piece of video evidence, every security recording. And I want charges filed within 24 hours. The automatic doors close behind Linda with a final whoosh, cutting her off from the world she'd controlled for nearly 2 decades. Through the glass, she can see the news crews setting up their equipment, preparing to tell the story of her downfall to the entire city. Inside the ER, normalcy begins to return. Dr. Sullivan takes charge of Rebecca's care with the kind of competence and compassion that should have been shown hours ago. Other staff members whisper among themselves, sharing stories they'd never dared tell before about Linda's previous behavior. Miguel picks up his mop and returns to his work, but there's a spring in his step that wasn't there before. Justice, real justice, has finally come to City General's emergency room. And for the first time in 18 years, the night shift operates without fear. Marcus holds Rebecca's hand as they rush toward the delivery room. "Everything's going to be okay now," he whispers. "You're safe. Our baby's going to be safe." Outside in the parking lot, Linda sits in her car, staring at her terminated employee badge, wondering how her world collapsed so completely in the span of 20 minutes. The answer is simple. It had been collapsing for 18 years. Tonight, someone finally noticed. 5 weeks later, the investigation into Linda Morrison has become a citywide reckoning. What started as one incident in an emergency room has peeled back layers of institutional discrimination that stretch back decades. District Attorney Michelle Santos sits in her downtown office, surrounded by boxes of evidence that paint a disturbing picture. Her desk is covered with complaint forms, witness statements, and video recordings that tell the same story over and over. Linda Morrison has been a predator in scrubs for years. 53 formal complaints, she tells her assistant, flipping through a thick folder. 53 times patients tried to report discriminatory treatment, and every single complaint was either dismissed or buried in bureaucratic red tape. The evidence is overwhelming. Security footage from multiple dates showing Linda deliberately delaying care for minority patients. Recorded conversations where she makes racist comments to other staff members. Testimony from former colleagues who were too afraid to speak up until now. Dr. Kenneth Williams, a black physician who left City General 3 years ago, finally breaks his silence. "Linda made my life hell," he tells investigators. "She would forget to notify me about emergency cases, delay test results for my patients, even spread rumors about my competence. I knew it was because of my race, but proving it seemed impossible." The hospital's own records reveal a damning pattern. Under Linda's supervision, Black and Hispanic patients waited an average of 90 minutes longer for treatment than white patients with identical symptoms. Complaint resolution times followed the same racial disparities. Pain medication was prescribed less frequently to minority patients regardless of medical need. Hospital Board Chairman Morrison calls an emergency meeting as the scope of the cover-up becomes clear. "How did we miss this for 18 years?" he demands. But the answer is uncomfortable. They didn't miss it. They ignored it. Former Administrator Dr. Robert Klein, Dr. Chang's predecessor, admits under oath that he received multiple warnings about Linda's behavior. She was efficient, experienced, and the emergency department ran smoothly under her supervision. "We chose to focus on those metrics rather than investigate discrimination claims that seemed subjective." The Federal Department of Justice launches its own investigation, sending a team of civil rights attorneys to review every aspect of City General's operations. What they find shocks even seasoned investigators. "This wasn't just one rogue employee," explains FBI agent Lisa Chun as she briefs the media. "This was systemic institutional failure. Multiple levels of management knew about discriminatory practices and chose to enable them rather than address them." The criminal trial begins 3 months after Rebecca's baby is born. Sophia Torres entered the world healthy despite her premature arrival, but the trauma her mother endured has left lasting scars on the entire family. Prosecutor Michelle Santos presents a methodical case that destroys any sympathy for Linda. Video after video shows her treating patients with contempt based solely on their race. The courtroom gasps when Miguel Santos's phone footage plays, showing Linda's assault on a pregnant woman in crystal clear detail. Linda's defense attorney, Richard Hampton, attempts multiple strategies. He argues she was overworked and stressed. He claims Rebecca was aggressive and threatening. He suggests the racial discrimination allegations are exaggerated by opportunistic complainants seeking settlements. Every defense crumbles under the weight of evidence. Dr. Amanda Sullivan takes the stand and destroys Linda's credibility with clinical precision. "She told me this patient wasn't a priority because of her race and social status. When I tried to provide medical care, She threatened my career. She put personal prejudice above a patient's life. Miguel Santos's testimony electrifies the courtroom. His weathered hands shake as he describes years of watching Linda's cruelty. I saw her make people wait in pain because she didn't like the color of their skin. I saw her refuse wheelchairs to elderly black folks while giving them to younger white patients. 9 years I watched, and nobody would listen to a janitor. The trial becomes a focal point for national discussions about healthcare equity. Medical schools across the country begin reviewing their curricula. Nursing boards examine their disciplinary procedures. Hospital systems implement real-time monitoring for bias in patient care. Judge Rachel Kim listens to weeks of testimony with growing disgust. During sentencing, she addresses Linda directly. Miss Morrison, your actions represent not just individual prejudice, but the institutional failure that enables such prejudice to flourish. You abused a position of trust while vulnerable people sought help in their darkest moments. Linda's sentence reflects the severity of her crimes. 22 months in federal prison for civil rights violations, complete loss of her nursing license, a $60,000 fine, and 600 hours of community service in minority healthcare clinics. The civil judgment awards the Torres family $3.1 million in damages, but the real victory comes in systemic change. City General faces an $18 million federal settlement and 6 years of federal oversight. The hospital must implement comprehensive bias training, diversify its leadership, establish an independent patient advocacy office, and submit to regular audits of care disparities by race. The Rebecca Torres Healthcare Equity Act passes through the state legislature with bipartisan support. The law requires all healthcare facilities to track and report patient care metrics by race, mandates bias training for all medical staff, and establishes an anonymous reporting system for discrimination complaints. 29 other states introduce similar legislation. Nursing boards nationwide add discrimination as grounds for automatic license revocation. Medical licensing exams begin including questions about implicit bias and cultural competency. Dr. Amanda Sullivan is promoted to Chief of Emergency Medicine at City General, becoming the youngest person ever to hold the position. Her first act is implementing a patient advocate program that ensures no one waits alone in pain ever again. Miguel Santos receives recognition from the City Council for his courage in documenting Linda's crimes. His video evidence becomes a training tool used in hospitals across the country to teach staff about the importance of speaking up against discrimination. The ripple effects continue spreading. Hospital systems nationwide review their complaint procedures. Federal grants for healthcare facilities become tied to demonstrated equity in patient outcomes. Anonymous bias reporting systems become standard practice. Linda Morrison begins serving her sentence at minimum security federal prison, where she participates in mandatory bias education programs. She writes letters of apology to former patients, though many remain undelivered by request of the recipients. But perhaps the most important change is cultural. The video of Linda's assault on Rebecca Torres has been viewed millions of times, becoming a stark reminder that discrimination in healthcare isn't just morally wrong, it's criminal. Healthcare workers across the country now think twice before letting bias influence their treatment decisions. They remember Linda Morrison, and they remember that someone is always watching. Justice, it turns out, has a very long memory. 8 months later, Rebecca Torres sits in her sunlit living room, cradling baby Sophia against her chest. The infant's tiny fingers wrap around Rebecca's thumb with surprising strength. Afternoon light streams through lace curtains, casting gentle shadows across family photos that now include their newest member. Marcus reads from his tablet, scrolling through news coverage of healthcare reforms. Another state just passed the Torres Act, he says quietly. That makes 30 states now requiring bias monitoring in hospitals. Rebecca adjusts Sophia's blanket, her voice soft with reflection. I never wanted to be the center of attention. I just wanted my baby to be safe. But if what happened to me helps other families avoid the same trauma, then maybe some good came from it. The changes have been profound and lasting. City General Hospital has become a model for equitable healthcare. The waiting room where Rebecca suffered now displays a plaque dedicated to patient dignity. New policies ensure every person receives compassionate care regardless of race or income. Dr. Amanda Sullivan's voice echoes through the hospital during shift changes, reminding staff of their oath to first do no harm. Patient satisfaction scores have reached record highs across all demographics. The culture of fear Linda fostered has been replaced by genuine care and accountability. Miguel Santos still works nights, but now volunteers as a patient advocate. His hands that once gripped a mop in frustration now comfort frightened families. Everyone deserves to be treated like somebody important, he tells new staff during orientation. Federal oversight has yielded remarkable results. Wait time disparities by race have been eliminated. Pain management protocols are standardized and bias-free. The anonymous reporting system has prevented dozens of potential discrimination cases through early intervention. Across the country, the Rebecca Torres effect continues rippling through healthcare systems. Nursing schools require cultural competency courses. Medical boards conduct surprise equity audits. Hospital administrators know discrimination isn't just morally wrong. It's financially and legally catastrophic. Linda Morrison serves her sentence quietly, participating in bias education programs she wishes had existed 18 years ago. Her case study is taught in ethics classes, a cautionary tale about unchecked prejudice destroying both victims and perpetrators. The Torres family established the Sophia Torres Scholarship Fund, supporting minority students pursuing healthcare careers. They quietly use settlement money to ensure the next generation of medical professionals reflects community diversity. Rebecca has returned to teaching with a new perspective on advocacy. Her students still call her Miss T, but now she also speaks at medical conferences about patient experience. Her quiet strength has become a powerful voice for healthcare equity. Looking directly into a documentary camera, Rebecca speaks with the authority of someone who survived injustice and created lasting change. Discrimination in healthcare isn't rare. It's just rarely recorded. Every patient deserves dignity regardless of race, income, or who they know. If you see injustice, speak up. Record it. Report it. Don't wait for someone else to act. Marcus adds his perspective. Change happens when ordinary people refuse to accept extraordinary injustice. Linda thought my wife was powerless, but every person has power when they demand basic human dignity. The camera captures Sophia sleeping peacefully, unaware her traumatic entry helped make hospitals safer for countless other children. Statistics tell the transformation story. Healthcare discrimination complaints decreased 63% in Torres Act states. Patient satisfaction among minority communities reached historic highs. Medical schools report bias and equity discussions have become central to curricula. But beyond statistics lies a deeper truth. Healthcare culture has fundamentally shifted. The video of Linda's assault serves as a permanent reminder that discrimination has consequences. Someone is always watching, and justice may be delayed but won't be denied. Have you experienced or witnessed healthcare discrimination? What would you have done in Rebecca's situation? Here's what we want you to think about. Linda Morrison probably went to work that night believing she was just doing her job. She likely went home convinced she'd handled a difficult patient appropriately. How many other Linda Morrisons are working right now, convinced their bias is actually professionalism? And more importantly, what are you going to do to make sure the next pregnant woman who walks into an emergency room gets the care she deserves, regardless of the color of her skin? Sometimes the most powerful weapon against injustice isn't anger or violence. Sometimes it's simply refusing to stay silent when someone's dignity is under attack. The story you heard today wasn't cleaned up. It was told exactly as it happened. We believe that's the only way truth can live. If you felt something, share it. Every week, we bring you voices that refuse to be silenced.